She's recording me. Darn it. She's gonna try the family. So I was thinking like, God, what should I share with the women of God, especially the young women, the collegiate age women. And so I'll just tell you a little bit about my upbringing. Biologically, there was seven of us, but our mother was on drugs, and my father was out of the picture in alcohol. And so we were raised separated from one another, but somehow through the experiences that my siblings had, I didn't have the experience of being raped or being traded to the drug man for, my body. I didn't have the experience of living on the streets and having to fend for myself. And I didn't have the experience of having to go away to prison and get locked up for murder. I didn't have the experience of being in a car crash and becoming paraplegic at 18. So I didn't have these experiences. My experience somehow was pretty fair, it was pretty okay, and somehow I made it to college. And I went away to school, and I was always trying to control what I could control. And the thing that I could definitely control were my grades. And so I graduated undergrad with my bachelor's, cum laude. I graduated with my master's. And throughout that time, my identity became so wrapped up in the labels. I pledged sorority, JacQuaye A, and that was a label. So I became wrapped up in that as well. So when I graduated undergrad with my bachelor's, I graduated 4 months pregnant. And I wasn't raised in church, but I was always the good girl. And so when I got to college, I fell in love. And so I fell in love and had my first boyfriend, and it didn't work out. So I don't think I've shared this part of my life with y'all, right? But I was like, on full confession, because I'm talking to like the college age ladies right now. I was like, you get burned out. So by the time my senior year came, I was like, God, I'm so tired of being a good girl. All my girlfriends was out, being dots and stuff. Not all of them, but a good portion of them, right? They were living the college life, that was turning up and down and all the way around and stuff. And so I was like, I want to live life a little bit before I graduate and take the next transition, because there's so much anxiety that comes when you're about to graduate and you're trying to figure out life. So I was like, YOLO, and then I was like, I'm going to do what they do. And yeah, I didn't get very far, okay? So I ended up pregnant. And so I graduated 4 months pregnant. And just in that situation, having pregnancy and not being married, because my goal was to be married initially, experiencing that, it was definitely a setback mentally. And for me, it defined who I was. So although I had a bachelor's degree, and although I had pledged my sorority, this was a big, I guess maybe like a stumbling block for me, because at that point, even though I was technically grown, even though I had got my bachelor's degree, people still counted me out and told me, oh, she went so far, but she done messed up now, and she's never gonna make it. So there were all those things, like Shawana said. People, speak word curses against you just because you didn't meet their standard. Right. And here's the thing, God already knew what you were gonna go through. God already knew what stumbling blocks you were gonna have to fall through. And through those stumbling blocks, people often will forget that they went through stumbling blocks themselves. Right. And then people will also forget that you have to stumble sometimes to get to your next level and to get to your shift. So anywho, I went on ahead. When I was 25, I enrolled in my master's program, and I said my goal was to get my master's before I was 27. My daughter at the time was about 2 or 3, and that was my goal. So I graduated on my 26th birthday, 1 year after enrolling with my master's degree. My program was an accelerated program. So looking back at it, in theory, things were going good. But what I will say to the young women of God, having a bachelor's degree, having sorority letters, having a master's degree, it did not protect me from homelessness. It did not protect me from not being able to find a job. It did not protect me from an abusive marriage. It did not protect me from an adulterer who was cheating and having abortions with multiple women. It didn't protect me from rejection. It didn't protect me from abandonment. It didn't protect me from these things. And so I was so caught up in the letters. And with the letters, it came the accolades. And I felt like I had made it. I felt like I had did the things, for the most part, that were right, that I was supposed to do. But an MBA, a BA, AKA, none of that stuff protected me from what I needed to go through, or some of the situations that I put myself in. And with that in mind, though, I realized, and this was just recently, I was a part of the first book conference, I was a part of the second, and I'm part of the third. It wasn't until 2016, when the first book collaboration came about, that I realized, like, I'm not defined by these letters. I felt so ashamed for years and years and years because I didn't have a job. I couldn't support myself. I was working temp jobs. I'm like, how am I working temp jobs and getting fired from temp jobs, and I have a master's degree? I couldn't even afford the things that me and my daughter needed to just survive. I remember at a point in time, I told my daughter, I said, you can't tell your school that we're living in a hotel because you'll get in trouble and I'll get in trouble too. And I remember a different time, months and months later, when the lights were off and the gas was off and there was no hot water, I remember calling people up and saying, making up stories. Can I just come to your house? My water's broken, or the plumber has to come by, just so that me and my daughter could get a shower. I remember telling people, hey, what you doing? Just to stop by, so the hope that when we stop by, they'd offer my daughter some food. So I remember those things. And when I tell y'all the MBA and none of that protected me from those things. And sometimes in life you go through stuff, it's not necessarily because you put yourself in those situations, right. It's to test you. And the testing comes to make you stronger. And you have to understand and know that in those tests that you are going to go through, it's not even for you. It's not for you. It's for the next person who's going to come, who you can minister to and testify to and say, I went through it, I've come through it. God is working on me. God is giving me my fight back. So just keep that in mind. The only letters that matter are G-O-D. So just, going back to being in the book collaboration in 2016, I learned that the letters, it doesn't matter. And I've been on this journey of, a next level shift, and what does it look like? And everyone's shift looks different. This is a big thing, especially with social media. I look at my girlfriend and she's in Bahamas or Aruba or something, posting pictures, talking about, selfie life, best life, living my best life. And I'm like, I'm not living my best life. I'm homeless, So also don't let social media define where you should be in your life, because that's a big thing. And there's actually some studies that show that social media plays a big role in your psyche and how you evaluate yourself. Sometimes you have to disconnect, and sometimes you have to tune off and deactivate your accounts. And so, anywho, I'll just kind of leave you with this. As younger women, you're gonna go through many, many stages as a woman. And so, 20-year-old, 30-year-old, I'm 33 now, but 30-year-old JacQuaye will look back at JacQuaye and tell her quite a few things. And I affirm to 20-year-old JacQuaye that you have to go through some things in life and that it's okay to go through those struggles. I tell her that you are beautiful, no matter if a man told you you were ugly and disgusting. I walked around for so many years thinking that I was ugly and disgusting and fat after I had bore a child to a man who I wasn't good enough for him. Don't let anybody define who you are. Don't let a man tell you you're ugly. Don't let him tell you you're not good enough, you're fat, you're too skinny, or anything. Some of the stages you're going to go through as, being collegiate age, you're going to experience love or first love. You're going to experience probably giving up of virginity. You're going to experience your career. You're going to experience his finances or lack thereof. You're going to experience relationships, marriage, friendships that go along the wayside. You're going to have to find yourself during this time. And I'm telling y'all, from a 33-year-old person to the 20-year-old somethings that you are, take God with you as you go through that journey. Because that's going to make it so much more easy for you as you matriculate. Take God with you. You are never too old to learn, and you're never too young to teach. So always keep that in mind. And I'll close with this. My sister wrote a post on Facebook, so I'm stealing it. I was like, oh, that was good. So she said, and this is in the wake of, we just buried my oldest sister last Saturday. So this was the first of the 7 biological siblings who's passed away. And so in her emotions, she said this to encourage herself. She said, I dreamt of future me. This is what she said. I'm gonna replace my name. This is what she said. JacQuaye, just understand, you will learn more from the losing. You may be going through hell or circumstances right now, but if you stop now, you'll remain there. Keep going, baby girl. I promise. Look at me. Do I look like I felt? Y'all, she looked amazing. And so she said, I think I'm gonna make it, y'all. If you could tell yourself in your 20s, talk to yourself at 30 years old, what would you tell her? Because at some point in time, 30-year-old you is gonna look back at 20-year-old you and have a message. So that's just what I will leave you with. Get your fight back. It's a journey, but get your fight back. The fight is real. Don't discredit the fight. It's real. It's hard, but it's so much easier with God. So girl, get your fight back.